Hello everyone. I'm going to start with a new chapter, the research methods in anthropology, and the name of the book is Amber and Amber. So, why do we need scientific methods to study anything? And this answer it has been provided by one anthropologist by the name Philip Salzman, and he explains that scientific methods they are the heart of science, and they are invented because the human error which can take the form of wish fulfillment, duplicity, dishonesty, and moral weakness, they can commonly distort research finding. And it is the scientific requirement that those scientific procedures they must be specified in detail so that it could be repeated. And this repetition can be for two reasons. First, it may be for verification of the postulates, the components of a theory, or then they maybe act as a template for other scientists to work upon it. All in all, scientific methods is similar to sitting on the shoulders of giants so that we do not have to reinvent the wheel all the time. So इसका मतलब ये है that if there is procedure, if there is already well established procedure and details of which are already specified, then we do not have to start afresh all the time. And then the other need for a scientific method is to eliminate all form of human subjectivity. And it happens that if procedures are not established and if procedures are not specified, then uh, the human subjectivity it can either contaminate or distort the matters or the findings. So this is it. Then most of the anthropology students know that there are two major divisions of anthropology. The first one is physical or biological world, and the second one is cultural world. Now, all the entities, all the parameters of biological world, they can be subjected to scientific methods. They can be measured, they can be scrutinized, because that is the purpose of science itself, scrutinization. But what about the cultural items, cultural entities? Will they ever be subject to scrutiny? Can they be measured? Can they be put on the objective anvil? And most anthropologists they believe that objective knowledge about other culture or the scrutinization of culture is possible, which means culture can be measured, culture can be um, scrounged through the objective methods of life. Then let's proceed on to the first subtopic, explanation. So explanation is an answer to a why question. So the example given here is about the restraining or the existence of a postpartum sex taboo in a community. Now, if somebody is asked why do you practice such a taboo, then if the answer is that they are practicing to maintain gap between birth for birth spacing, so is this an explanation? Yes, it is an explanation, but it is not a satisfactory one because it does not answer all the whys that are associated with the question. It does not completely fulfill all the whys. Then, if the same person or the another person, if he answers that they are practicing because it is a custom of a particular community, then even then that it is an explanation but not a satisfactory one, and it is a tautology, which means the answer itself or the event that has been explained, it is explained by itself because of its prior existence. इसका मतलब है that this culture or this particular practice or custom it is in existence before the birth of the speaker or the explainer, and then he or she is practicing it just because it is a custom, it is a wish of their ancestor to continue this tradition. So in that way, it is an answer, it is an explanation, but it is not explaining why they have this particular custom. So what kinds of explanations are most satisfactory? In science, investigators they try to achieve two kinds of explanation that are most satisfactory. The first one is associations or relationship, and the other one is theory. Both of them they explain a certain event in a satisfactory way. So let's talk about first associations or relationships. So one way of explaining something is to say how it conforms to a general principle or a relationship. So the example here is that the water that was left outside in the basin last night, it froze. So while seeking explanation, there is a two-part answer. The first one is it was cold last night, and second, water freeze at 0 degrees centigrade. So it means uh, this two-parter it can be made into first it was 0 degree last night and then water freeze at 0 degree. So here you can see association or relationship between two variables. First, the temperature of night it varied from normal 12 or 15 degrees centigrade. It declined up to it plummeted to 0 degrees centigrade, and then the other general principle that water freezes at 0 degrees centigrade. So this particular kind of explanation that comes conform to satisfactory or can be called satisfactory because your answer it conforms to established principle. Then to it is not that even if the answer it has been presented in a relationship between a variable and the general principle, such as it was cold last night and water freeze at 0 degrees centigrade, it shouldn't be, and it generally it does not it is not accepted at face value. So they are scrutinized, they are observed, and the truth of this relationship it is suggested by or it is derived by repeated observations. In physical sciences, this relationship it is called law that water freezes at 0 degrees centigrade, and we find such explanations satisfactory because they allow us to predict what will happen in the future. So if again after a few days you have a night of 0 degrees centigrade or even lower at -2 degrees centigrade, then because of this principle and because of this relationship, you are likely to believe that if you keep one pot full of water outside, it will be frozen by tomorrow. It will be frozen by morning. Then in social sciences, because we have talked about physical sciences, which is not difficult, but in social sciences, such associations they are stated probabilistically, which means prone to or be influenced by probability. And we say that two or more variables they tend to be related in a predictable way. But when we say probabilistically, it means there may be some exceptions, which is unlike the physical sciences. So in physical sciences, there are no exceptions. If the nighttime temperature it is 2 degrees centigrade, and if you keep a bowl of water outside, there is no exception. There is no forgotten element here that this water will not freeze because of any such probabilistic element. This water will freeze no matter where you keep it. In the same way, but unlike the physical sciences, social relationships, they are dynamic. Dynamic, or in the sense they are dependent on probability because of existence of exceptions. So for example, explain why a society has a long postpartum sex taboo, we can point to the association or relationship which John Whiting found in a worldwide sample. And he found that societies which live in tropics, they have apparently low protein diet, and because of that, they maintain birth spacing or maintain long postpartum sex taboo. So this relationship between low protein diet, a variable, and then an event, this sex taboo, it is known as statistical association. Then let's proceed on to theories. All such questions and all such laws and associations, they need to be explained. They need to be explained in detail. And theories are the mechanism by which such observed relationship they are explained. And so there may be many questions such as why does water freeze at 32 degree Fahrenheit or 0 degree centigrade, and why do society with low protein diet tend to have a long postpartum sex taboo. Theories which, uh, which are the explanations of laws and statistical association, they are more complicated than the observed relationship which they intend to explain. So it is easier to observe water freezing at 0 degrees centigrade, but it is difficult to theorize um, the mechanism by which it froze. And it is also difficult to precise about what a theory is. So let's return to the question of why some societies have long postpartum sex taboos. So by statistical association, we found that the societies with low protein diet, they generally have a long postpartum sex taboo. But then there will be additional question that what does low protein diet explain the taboo? How does it explain it? And what is the mechanism by which a society with low protein diet develop this particular custom? And to answer it, John Whiting, the same anthropologist who established the statistical, excuse me, who found the statistical association between low protein diet and long postpartum sex taboo, he theorized that this may be an adaptation to certain conditions, particularly in tropical area where major food staples are low in protein. Yes, so this situation here, this observation here, it particularly stands out because it is somewhere closer to the explanation of this particular phenomena. And in tropics, where all these staples are low in protein, babies are vulnerable to protein deficiency called kwashiorkor. And in that situation, if mothers nurse their baby for a long time, they might have a greater chance of survival. So this custom, it might be a adaptive technique, an adaptive mechanism for survival, which increases the likelihood baby's survival. And Whiting suggests that parents may be aware, whether unconsciously or consciously, that having another baby too soon might jeopardizes the survival of first baby. Because if they go for another baby, then the first baby would not be nursed for a long time. And since protein is needed for healthy survival, healthy growth, which is not found in their usual diet, and resorting to having the decision to have another child, the mother's nursing time, mother's milk, it will be fed to the another child. depriving the first child of important source of protein, which may be a threat to the first baby's survival. So in this example, this theory illustrates that there are differences between a theory and an association. A theory is more complicated, containing a series of statements, and all of such statements, they may be true. So it would be better to say that a theory is consist of multiple or a series of multiple interpretations. Whereas on the other side, an association is simply a relationship between two or more measured variables. Then another difference is that although a theory may mention something that are observable, the other concept, or there will be some concept or a statement that could not be observed. So with regard to Whiting's theory, it would be difficult to find out if the people who adopted the custom of long postpartum sex taboo, if they had some awareness that by adopting this custom, they are increasing the survival of their baby. So this concept of adaptation, of promoting greater reproductive success, it is difficult to verify because there are many factors, many caveats. नहीं पता है कि how many people or individuals or group they might be aware of about this idea, and if they know about it scientifically. So the point here is that there will be many concepts or many elements of a theory that will be difficult to verify because they are unobservable. So here in this case, any community that is being studied here, we don't know if they have equal reproductive success, or we don't know about their rate of reproduction. Then we don't know about their own idea about this particular custom, whether they are aware consciously or unconsciously about the benefit that may accrue from adopting such a custom. Then there will be another factor. Maybe the people here, even if they are living in this low protein diet, some of them they may go for animal protein or any form of protein rich diet, or they may be a balanced diet. We don't know if some individual or groups, we are not sure if they are all of them having a certain degree of or equal degree of low protein diet. So because of many such unobservable criteria, uh, theory, it cannot be assumed to be true in entirety. So why is that so? Why theory cannot be proved? So in your school, you might have had this impression that theories are true, or theories have been proved. Maybe because of the authoritative manner, the authoritative tone of your teachers. But scientists and philosophers of science, they generally agree that no theory can be said to be proved or unquestionably true. Because this is because many concepts and ideas in a theory, they are not directly observable. And therefore, if they are not observable, they cannot be directly verified. So example is here given here is scientists may try to explain how light behaves by postulating that it consists of particle called photon. But since photons cannot be observed even with most powerful microscope, so this theory it cannot be proved in entirety. So it stands or remains unprovable. And the photon here, it is a theoretical construct. So any unobservable entity that is used or employed in a theory that exists but uh, stay unobservable. Then the question, why should we bother about theories? The main advantage of it is that it may lead to a new understanding or a knowledge, because a theory they suggest new relationship or imply new predictions that might be supported or confirmed by new research. Then, although theory cannot be proved, they are rejectable. So this method of falsification that shows that theories seem to be wrong is the main way theories are judged. And according to John Whiting on the existence of sex taboo, he predicted that this taboo it would be found more in tropics than in temperate regions because of availability of low protein food supply in tropics. But such prediction it can be called hypothesis, and theories that are not falsified they are accepted for the time being because the available evidence it seems to be consistent with them. But the ultimate truth about theory is that we can never be certain any theory is true. Now let's have a look at the brief history of anthropological theories. The first one is early evolutionism. So it was the earliest attempt at theorizing the explanation of culture, and the first such theory it suggested that culture it generally develops or evolves in a uniform and progressive manner. So its proponents such as E. B. Tyler and Henry Morgan they maintain that culture evolved from simple to complex, and all the society they had to pass through three basic stages, which are savagery, barbarism, and then civilization. And to account for cultural variations, Tyler and Morgan they postulated that different contemporary society were at different stages of evolution, which means कुछ society जो है वो they are not developed, they are still in uh, I'm really sorry for now because I'm getting disturbed by multiple phone calls. So where were we? The variations, Morgan and Tyler, they talk about, they said that different cultures, they are in different stages of evolution, which means if some culture is not catching up, it may be on the middle way. For example, if we, according to the early evolutionaries, let's say there is an African community, then the another one, it may be the Asian community and the European community, because at that time the idea was mostly centered around the superiority of Western civilization, a kind of Eurocentrism. So उसके हिसाब से Africans they are not they are not still civilized. It means वो अभी भी they are on the way, and Asians they are catching up. They are in the middle, and the at the pinnacle stands the European or the white population. That was the earliest idea. Then this theory it is rejected today. Then second comes the race theory. So it was the another branch of early anthropological theories, and it posited that human culture it differed in their behavior because they are represented by different subspecies or different races of human. So this theory it talks about the phenotypical differences that led to the hypothetical cultural differences, which is not so a case, because all phenotypical differences such as the skin complexion the color of eyes, height, body weight, the, the length of extremities, the body fat, all are the all are subject to natural selection. All are product of particular environment. So race as a concept, it is again a theoretical construct. So here again you can see the glaring eye of Eurocentrism, in which few cultures that are being civilized, and it was attributed to the innate capability of the people, and those who are not civilized, the members of uncivilized races, they were by their nature incapable of being civilized. So this racial view, it it is already rejected by scientific and social theorists alike, but unfortunately this theory, it still persists on in some form or another. Then came the Bayesian anthropology, or the Bayesian anthropological theory. So in the beginning of 20th century, when the classical evolutionary theory was brought to an end, it was because it was opposed by many, and one such opponent was Frank Boa, whose main disagreement with the evolutionists involved the assumption that universal law govern all human culture. So whereas French Boas, he pointed that these armchair anthropologists, the classical evolutionist, they lacked sufficient data to formulate such generalization. And he was also opposed to the race theory. And according to Boas, cultural traits, they had to be studied in the context of the geography in which they are in, or in the society in which they are in. And in a sense, he talked about a strict scientific discipline which refuted all expectation and relied only on facts. So, in short, he was much inclined on collecting data without any preliminary theorizing. So, this idea, it is problematic because the most important, while collecting data or collecting facts, most important may be ignored, and irrelevant one they may be recorded. So this concern of Boa with innumerable local details, it did not encourage a belief that such collection of local details, they can tell us about variations in culture. So by 1950s, many anthropologists, they felt that the Bayesian focus on describing culture rather than explaining the variation, it limited the scope of anthropology. Then let's proceed on to ecological approaches. So it was Julian Stewart who first advocated the study of cultural ecology, which means the relationship between a culture and its environment. And he felt that the explanation of some of the cultural variation, it could be found in the adaptation of a society to its particular environment, because it involved the mechanism of natural selection. And uh, we can see its example in terms of biological races, or even in terms of body fat. So we know that people of tropics, they are tall and lean because tropical areas are hot and humid, and us heat and humidity में lean body, it helps in removing the extra heat by perspiration. Perspiration mean sweating. So hot and humid areas में ये physics, it comes handy, it is helpful. But if we compare it to that of the Arctic area, the area which is very cold, and herein the adaptive body is one that is short and stocky, a body full of body fat. And वो इसलिए क्योंकि in the Arctics, extra body fat and short height, both of them help in preserving heat. So you can see the play of local environment or local condition as a form of adaptive mechanism of survival of a particular species, especially the Homo sapiens. In a shorter version, environment, including the physical and social environment, it affects the development of certain traits, certain cultural traits that individual or population, when employed or when behave, they have different degrees of success in their survival. So in short, जो ये mechanism, जो ये cultural traits, whether social or physical, adopt करेगा, उसका degree of success in terms of survival, it will be great, it will be greater. और जो नहीं अपनाएगा, they will lose out on this front. Then there are many anthropologists who refer to themselves as evolutionary or behavioral ecologists, and they explore how particular characteristics may be adaptive for an individual in any given environment. So this viewpoint, it implies that behavior is transmitted in some way, and this is not difficult to understand because whichever behavior it is, whether it is physical or cultural, biological or social, if that behavior, if it is helps in the survival of an individual or a group, it will be transmitted one way or the another. And in the same way, if a certain behavior is adaptive, which means it helps in their survival in a particular environment, it will become more widespread. Simple phenomena is that if A is a person, or he employed a certain behavior known as X. It may be a physical behavior or a cultural behavior. Physical behavior may be like physical activity in cold area, and cultural behavior, it means high fatty diet. So अब क्या होगा कि इस पर्सन ने ये पर्टिकुलर ट्रेड जो है वो अडॉप्ट किया, एंड ये ट्रेड चाहे वो फिजिकल हो या कल्चरल हो, इसकी वजह से he will live up to a great age, and he may ensure the survival of his own offspring, and he reproduce his own offspring B and C. And since this trait, this set of trait, it help in his own survival, वो ये survival mechanism he will transmit it to his offspring. And वो भी जब ये दोनों his offspring will take the help of these traits or these cultural or social practices, इससे उनका survival भी ensure होगा, and then this population, his own lineage, it will survive, and this behavior, it will become more widespread. Then there is one important contemporary idea about dual inheritance theory, which talks about both inheritance of genes and culture, or in short, the example I have given here about both physical and social traits, and which both work in conjunction. It is not that only uh, physical element will help in your survival, or it may be the cultural one. No, in fact, it is the um, interconnection. It is the combined working of both physical and cultural trait which help in a prosperous future, in a prosperous survival. And the same mechanism it is highlighted in dual inheritance theory, which says that both genes and memes, genes which is a unit of inheritance of biological traits, and meme which is unit of inheritance of cultural traits, both are inherited in a person. Then let's have a look at interpretive approaches. So this approach, it is a fusion of literature and the cultural elements. And the anthropologists who are associated with this theory, they look at culture through the literary lens, and they believe that culture can be analyzed just like any literary text. And one such proponent is Clifford Gates. And according to Gates, ethnographer, those ethnographers who choose to interpret the meaning of things in the culture they study, they are interest to themselves. Then those meanings, those interpretations, they are conveyed to people of their own culture. So, in short, those interpreters, they work as intercultural translators, and the the goal of anthropology should be to understand what it means to be a person living in a particular culture rather than to explain why cultures vary. So, all in all, the interpretive and approaches, they exist to interpret various cultural elements of a particular culture rather than account for the intercultural variation. So all in all, their idea is that if there are multiple cultures such as A, B, C, and D, so this interpretive approach, it is to choose anyone. Let's say A has been chosen, and then they will study this culture and interpret various mechanisms, such as you might have heard about the Clifford Gates interpretation of Balinese cockfight. So it's a cockfight of a form of status symbol, or maybe a mechanism of resolving dispute. Because disputes तो होते हैं, ठीक है, और the society which he studies, the Balinese society, cockfights is a usual phenomena, uh, which is a bloodless phenomena, a phenomena in which human blood is not spilled, and cocks are fight, murge, they are fought amongst uh, themselves, and each cock, it represents its owner. So by fighting the cocks among themselves, it's like the owners are fighting among themselves, and the winning and loser, uh, it decides the fate of the issue, or it might resolve the dispute that exists between them. So herein, the interpretive approach, it picks up a society and interpret its various tools and various traits. But when it is asked about interpreting the variations among all the cultures, which is stubbornly refuted, according to which it is better to study a particular culture rather than studying the variations which exist between these cultures. And they think that interpretation is the only achievable goal in cultural anthropology because they do not believe it is possible to describe or measure cultural phenomena in objective, unbiased way. This is their postulate. And thus, interpretive or interpretative anthropologists, they deny the possibility of scientific understanding of human behavior and believe that any culture cannot be studied in an objective manner. They may not know how much have been achieved so far by scientific studies of cultural phenomena. This is it. Thank you very much, and we'll proceed on the next topic in the next video.